Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. I've talked a lot about these guys for the last couple months, and it's interesting. Everything I said was true, and no, we presumed it because they have over 6 years of experience between Michael, Robert, their team. They have licensed contractors. The fact that they talk about being able to be reached 24 hours a day, that's something not everyone openly throws out there when they're a company. So the fact that they do it, definitely believable. Well, I've been working with them personally on some things with our home, and it's all true. I tell you that right now. I reached out to them. They got right back to me. We set up a time. They were there before. They were there on time, which usually you get those stupid windows 10 to 2, and then they get there at 4. No, wasn't a window. We're going to be there at this time. They got there even a little bit earlier when I was ready for them. Came in, surveyed the situation. We talked about it, got the estimate, and they're going through with the work, and it's going to be done when they say it's going to be done, which, again, when it comes to contractors, when it comes to service, when it comes to work on your home, is not always the case with Water Cleanup of Florida. What they say, they mean. The fact that they have 6 years of combined experience is something they take very seriously. The fact that they have licensed contractors means they can come out, get the work, not only assess it, but get the work done. The fact that they talk about being available 24 hours a day, that's something that was huge for me because things with our home don't happen at 1 o'clock p.m. on a Wednesday. You know, they happen late night. They happen early morning. They happen on the weekend. They happen at all times a day. 24 hours, 7 days a week. Your home is possible. Something can go wrong. Well, Water Cleanup of Florida is there for you. Give them a call, 954-579-0356, 954-579-0356. Reach them on the website. Check out the website, WCUFL.com, WCUFL.com. If you mention 5 Reasons or Lubie, you'll receive a free inspection during business hours. Check them out on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Water Cleanup FL. Water Cleanup of Florida. We clean up your schmutz. The Heat had a much better season when compared to schmutz. A lot of people thought they'd be a 4 to 6 seed, maybe even more underwhelming. No, they found themselves as the number 1 seed, had a great regular season, and a really strong postseason, 1 shot away from the NBA Finals. And they were banged up at the end. A lot of rumors swirling about who they may or may not get. So we went to one of the longest tenured sports columnists in all of South Florida today, the one and only Dave Hyde. We talked about Miami Heat free agency, and then Defo and I also talked about what we thought the Heat could do free agency-wise. What were the real expectations of possibly getting a Kyrie Irving? What was the real interest in a Kyrie Irving? So much more with Miami Heat today. The Defo Show with Lubie, also with Dave Hyde, here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All you saw for a couple of days through the weekend and into Monday was rampant speculation and all kinds of theories and philosophies and ideas about what on earth Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets was thinking. And what were the Nets thinking with regard to possibly doling out a huge wad of cash for a guy that played like 29 games for him in the last season and has been a known flake and a guy that you just don't know, where on earth his head could be. He thought the earth was flat. So obviously, if he was sailing with Columbus, he would not have been a good teammate at that point. Trying to discourage the others from going. We've asked many authorities about Kyrie Irving, including, the great astronomer Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he said, hey, listen, guy's a basketball player. If we're talking about basketball, I'm interested in what he has to say. Otherwise, his ideas are a little bit far-fetched. Now, there was a theory out there that Kyrie Irving might end up as a member of the Miami Heat. And that was being wildly and widely proliferated by many people in the press, and I guess anybody that was capable of spreading a rumor. And that seemed like an odd fit. So nobody better to talk to about this than a man who himself is immersed in Heat culture. I mean, just a hard-working son of a gun who's going to get the job done and is not all about, there's no I in team, as the saying goes. Just a great, great guy and a tremendous columnist, the great Dave Hyde from the South Florida Sun-Sentinel joins us here. David, how are you, my friend?
Well, Defo, there's no I in team, but there's me and I in media, and that's how we work, right? So it's all about us.
That explains a lot, actually.
All right. I mean, how much attention did you pay to this story, and what kind of legs did it have that the Heat were somehow in a position. I mean, I even saw details of a proposed trade. I'm not sure, what kind of foundation that had in truth, because usually NBA trades are nothing like what is reported in the ultimate outcome. But what kind of legs did this story have? Was there ever a possibility, in your opinion, or by your research or knowledge of the situation, that Kyrie Irving was even a possibility of a consideration for Pat Riley to come to the Miami Heat?
If I were to pick one player who stands for everything the Heat culture doesn't, it'd be Kyrie Irving. I mean, he would be the exact opposite of the player that I'd be stunned to the point of, has Pat Riley lost his mind, or all of a sudden he decided to take on the biggest challenge of his career of turning around a guy well into his career who's all about himself and not about the team. And I mean, people were shocked that Kyrie Irving opted in at $37 million. Like, is anybody else any team other than maybe a Sacramento, just because they can't get anybody else, would anybody else pay him that? I mean, you have to be insane after he's told you who he is time after time, year after year. If all these rumors of him or speculation coming to the Heat was just a bunch of nonsense.
It did seem far-fetched and highly uncharacteristic, as you said, of A, Heat culture, and B, especially Pat Riley and where he is at right now. Lubie and I were discussing this on our morning show, the Defo show this morning on South Florida Live. And, it was the whole idea of Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler and how that dynamic works. Do you believe that he would want Jimmy Butler's input before he made a move of that level of substance, which at one point in the rumor mill was involving Kyrie Irving, but then later on the attention switched to Kevin Durant. But could you see Pat Riley actually consulting a player about making that sort of acquisition?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the amount of money they make, the amount of investment, and their standing in the team. Yeah, I mean, we're talking communication with the player. We aren't talking that the player's the GM. But sure, you would want it. That's why some of this stuff I can never understand. Why wouldn't, for instance, the Green Bay Packers consult Aaron Rodgers on offensive moves? He's earned that, and a Jimmy Butler. And again, it isn't do you approve or disapprove, but get his input to. Look, you want the player invested in the decision too. You want him on board, so there isn't some, history between a player they're bringing on and your star player. So, I mean, you have communication with a player like Jimmy Butler, I would think. And by the way, if we're talking Kevin Durant and not Kyrie Irving, that's a whole different discussion. Yes. You would want Kevin Durant in a second. I mean, for what he is and what he can bring a team. That's a whole different argument.
Well, and the just professional way, which we're talking about the column Mike Vaccaro wrote as a sidebar to Kyrie Irving opting back in with the Brooklyn Nets, and he was talking about how Kevin Durant has been nothing but professional. And yet, I don't know, it's so weird for me, Dave. I don't know how you feel about this, that people would try to taint Kevin Durant's reputation just based on the idea that they think he wimped out and capitulated to, not necessarily having to be the main catalyst for a team that he was the main catalyst on when he went to Golden State to play with, a club that already had established that they were championship caliber.
Yeah, well, certainly nobody in South Florida can hold that against him, considering when LeBron and Wade and Chris Bosh got together. I mean, that's the same thing Kevin Durant did in joining Golden State. I didn't really understand his move away from Golden State. I guess everybody has their own career to direct. But look, if you could get a Kevin Durant and bring him here, that's a game changer for a franchise. So, I mean, what would it cost and all that? Is he available would be the first question. But he's had some odd career decisions at times, but his talent and what he's done speaks for itself.
Dave, so free agency officially opens up Thursday, and we've already heard the Knicks machinations trading everyone away possible. We're not even sure if they're bringing people back just so that they can get room for a guy who's a good player in Jalen Brunson, but not, by most estimations, not a game changer. The Miami Heat, feels like PJ Tucker. The Sixers want him bad enough where they're giving him the amount of years the Heat really don't want to give him, and he is 37, and he did look banged up a lot of this year, even though he was a huge part of the Heat's success. He was showing his age a lot of the season, so that third year does loom large. What do you think the Heat do? What do you think the Heat need to do to keep pace with the rest of the Eastern Conference?
Well, they need scoring. They need another scorer somehow. And you saw that at times in the playoffs. And when Jimmy Butler wasn't having a big night, they were struggling. They need Butler and Bam struggled with length, so it's like they have some obstacles. Look, PJ Tucker's a nice player. You can talk of toughness and bringing a force to a team, a mindset. You love that. But let's not get carried away with who he is. I mean, he's if they lose him, it's not like, it's dire straits. Again, you want him back, but you don't want to go crazy on a 37-year-old who's offensively challenged. The Heat, their problems is length on other teams, and let's not pretend Milwaukee won't be better if Chris Middleton is healthy next year in the playoffs. And there's a team that has great size that presents the Heat problem. So, I mean, if PJ Tucker goes, the 4 spot becomes your number one priority, obviously. As for the Knicks, I don't understand their infatuation with Brunson. He's a nice player. Is he the guy who can? Is he a franchise guy? I guess I haven't seen him enough to see what they're seeing in him to be going to the lengths they are for him.
Well, it's great, too, because they pulled like a Nick Saban where they hired his father to be a coach. Yeah, I mean, that you couldn't be any more obvious about this thing. Should Adam Silver be, thinking about leveling a little tampering charge against the New York Knicks?
When Leon Rose said, basically, my job hinges on me getting Brunson
yes.
a few days ago, that told me, okay, he has Brunson in the palm of his hand to come, because why else would you say that? Yeah. So, but it leads to the larger question of, is Brunson as good as they're saying? He's obviously a good player. Is he the guiding force for a franchise the way they're making him out to be?
They tend to embrace that sort of player, though, and decide that this is going to be the be-all and end-all, and then it doesn't turn out to be the case because it appears, I'm with you, that a good player, Brunson, showed very well. We don't know how long he can sustain that level of play, especially if he's the main impetus on somebody's basketball roster. But going to the Knicks also, for some reason can be tantamount to a little bit of a basketball burial. Not quite Sacramento, but it does seem like a lot of careers go south, and the team goes with it when a player decides to go to the New York Knicks, who appeared just a couple of years ago, maybe, or 2 seasons back, that maybe they had sort of figured something out, but they certainly regressed this past season. Now, we know that Pat Riley, I'm not sure that he's a giant draft guy. I guess he was after he drafted Dwayne Wade, but it seemed like in general over the years with the Miami Heat, he wasn't, all in and overwhelmingly invested in draft picks, and would much rather have veteran players. But Lubie says they got a guy here, and I got all excited on a draft day. I thought they made a draft day trade for Nikola Jokic. And I thought, wow, that's a monster move to get the MVP. But it was a guy named Jovic. And Lubie says that this is tantamount to, the time that they acquired on draft day in a trade Martin Murasep, who nobody had any film of. And I'll never forget this when, people ask, hey, what does this Murasep look like? And they had like an artist rendering of Murasep. Nobody had even taken a photograph of him before. Who is this kid, Dave? Do we know anything about him?
Don't ask. You're asking me. I have no idea.
Exactly.
He's the 27th. He's the 27th, and nobody else had any idea either.
Yes.
Beyond the NBA scouts come draft night, then all of a sudden everybody's an expert. He can shoot. He's athletic. All this. Look, no one has any idea. And you know what? The Heat don't have a clear idea either. When you're picked 27th, you're a possibility. And the one thing the Heat are great at is developing players with some skill and work ethic. They've proven that. And you know what? If you're a player who, a free agent who feels like you're not getting your opportunity, the Heat are a great franchise to come to. They'll give you an opportunity, and you can go up and down the roster of the last few years, and from the Max Struces to the Caleb Martins to Duncan Robinson. You go down the line and so look, this whoever Jokic is, he'll get his chance. I have no idea who he is though.
No clue. Yeah, I mean, it could have been anybody that they picked up there. I remember I was covering for some reason down at the Miami Arena. I want to say a Heat draft party when they acquired Mirosev. And he may have been the greatest mystery man in the history of the NBA draft. I don't even know if he ever showed up in the States, this guy. It was bad news.
You're the
All
man.
right, take care,
Thank you
guys.
so much.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for being with us here. Dave Hyde. I don't know. I mean, how much interest could they have had in acquiring Kyrie Irving? Do you think that Jimmy Butler, how much influence? I'm thinking closer to none in terms of influence. How conscious do you think Pat Riley is of like player desires? What do you think? Is he making any of his decisions? You would imagine that Jimmy Butler at least has established enough turf with the Heat that he's so bought into the organizational philosophy and been, a great practitioner of everything that the Heat embellishes and embraces and is all about in the way that they want to run this organization from both a business and a playing standpoint, right? Guy's going to work harder than anybody else. He's going to take losing as if it was tantamount to death. He's going to rise to the occasion when necessary for the most part. Put on a sensational performance in the postseason on more than one occasion. And what was really the main impetus in the Heat riding its way all the way to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final. And who knows what would have happened. It seemed like Golden State was going to win the championship anyway, but, you would have liked to have been there as a representative. But that was largely based on the whole sort of metronomic presence on the high end of Jimmy Butler. Yep. Do you think that Riley would have taken Butler's feelings and thoughts into consideration before he said, hey, Jimmy, or did he just bypass that? If he wanted Kyrie Irving, he was going to do it no matter what, even if Butler was going to be pissed.
Well, supposedly Kyrie Butler has talked about in the past he'd love to play with Kyrie Irving. Now, that was before this last year where Irving really hit his zenith in being Kyrie Irving. But I think Riley makes the moves how Riley wants to make the moves, but he has a different respect for Butler than I think he's had for anyone not named Dwayne Wade. Scoop talked about it Monday. People keep asking, why is Riley sticking around? Ethan sort of said it bluntly. He wants Jimmy Butler to win a title. He feels like because Jimmy Butler came down there, because Jimmy Butler is taking his game to another level, because Jimmy Butler, the stuff Jimmy Butler did this postseason was pure Heat Nick stuff. Like, he was done. He should not have been playing in that series. And not only he played out of his freaking mind those last 3 games. And they almost went to the finals because of Jimmy Butler. Like, he wasn't getting any help. Tucker and Lowry and Hero were all banged up, not playing well. Robinson wasn't even involved. Strus couldn't hit the side of a barn. Vincent, everyone had dropped their level, and they still almost beat a team that almost beat the Warriors. So, Riley has this crazy respect for Butler, and he wants to make sure either he's there when Butler wins a title or he sets them up in a way where Butler will win a title. Like, Skolnick said that, and Skolnick's talked to a lot of people in the organization, if not Riley himself, and this is a clear, they don't feel bad saying this. Like, Riley wants to make sure Jimmy Butler wins a title. So, and I've never heard him say that about any player. Like, even LeBron, he didn't say that. Like, Butler has really entrenched himself in this Heat culture, Heat lifer thing, to the point where Riley would for sure talk with Irving. And again, Butler has a very similar mentality to the Heat where he doesn't want to get involved in the stuff. So if Butler had something to say, it's because it probably was sensible and logical.
I'm not sure if that was even close to consideration.
No, it was never. They didn't want Irving. None of them. No one wanted Irving. Even no one on the Heat wanted Irving. It didn't make sense.
Well, and Irving obviously wasn't going to go anywhere because when faced with the possibility of joining the Lakers, whom he embraced, and reconnecting with LeBron James, where he won a championship with LeBron with the Cleveland Cavaliers, you would have thought, okay, I mean, there was your opportunity, but as we said, $36 million versus $6 million. I don't care who you are and what it is that you're doing, unless it involves some kind of moral question like the Saudi tour money. This is the NBA, which probably should involve some moral questions, right? What about that Chinese money there, Lubie?
Exactly.
But he's talking about that. Nope. I mean, if Monahan is running the NBA, are they not taking any kind of action from the Chinese?
Of course.
You think he's getting any Chinese money
sure.
on the PGA Tour? Are they manufacturing golf clubs now? That's more a Japanese thing, putting that together. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know that the Heat ever really were going to, go out of their way to get Kyrie Irving. Kevin Durant, on the other hand, LeBron James is a guy that the minute he's on another team, they become better.
Yes.
I don't care what team it is, and I don't care what stage of his career it is. Even now, the minute LeBron James is on another team, they're a better team.
Mm-hmm.
I've maintained this throughout, and if you were looking for the ultimate measuring stick about a player, that's it. I don't know. I mean, does a team immediately become a better team with Kyrie Irving?
Oh, Irving, I don't know.
And is Kyrie Irving
Durant,
enough
yes.
in and of himself? Whereas LeBron James, you could, I mean, he didn't have scrubs here when he had Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. He had, although I don't know, is Bosh, in your estimation, the Basketball Hall of Fame stature is a little crazy because there's only one Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And includes anybody that was ever involved in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's no NBA Hall of Fame.
It's a weird thing.
Okay, so the standards are different.
Yes.
Different, I mean, is Chris Bosh, I guess,
to me, yes.
by the overall standard of the game, probably is a Hall of Famer, no?
Yes. To me, he's a
hard
Hall
to
of Famer.
debate.
To me, I mean, he won a lot with the Heat. He was a key cog with the Heat, and he wasn't
that great down here, but he was great with Toronto.
And he was great before.
I would say that, yeah.
So the combination to me, he's a Hall of Famer. It's weird, though, because that's the thing, is a guy like Tracy McGrady, who had a 3 or 4 year run where he was a monster, but then the rest of his career, he was hurt. To me, he's not a Hall of Famer, but because of the basketball thing, they fooled themselves into saying he's a Hall of Famer. So the Basketball Hall of Fame thing is a little strange.
Qualifications are weird. I believe Butch Comives is a Hall of Famer.
Probably.
For what he did at Bowling Green. He was a hell of a shooter there. As Jim Larinaga, who was very familiar with the guy because he coached at Bowling Green, and Comives was a legendary. He sucked with the Knicks, okay? He sucked. The only thing he did for the Knicks, he was involved in a trade with the Pistons for Dave DeBusschere. And by the way, Knicks and the Pistons, are the Pistons just, are they making up for that DeBusschere deal from years ago? Because they are like fleecing the Knicks at this point. The Knicks just sent them. This is great. I don't even. Is this something that any league would, give a pass to? Where the Knicks just traded 2 players, 2 future draft picks, and sent $6 million in cash to the Pistons and got nothing in return. How is that possible? Don't you at least have to throw in a token, conditional future second-round pick to make the trade? How do you trade for nothing? Where they just give you, I mean, it was, what?
You have to make salary. You have to make salaries
Nerlens
work.
Noel. They're dumping salary so they can get this guy Brunson from the
But you have to make salaries work for a trade. So they had to have gotten something that really sucked but had a really crappy contract in return.
What could it have been? I didn't see anything in return. I was reading about the details of this deal.
Well, because
Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, 2 second-round picks, and $6 million for nobody. Not even a player to be named later.
No, you can't do. Or then maybe they gave them money. Like you have to, the money has to work. Like that's the whole point. That's the reason why Duncan Robinson is involved in all these trades with the Heat, because he has a ridiculous contract. So it can make a lot of the money work if a team's if a superstar wants to leave and the Heat give them young talent and they give them draft picks, which is what they want if you're rebuilding. the money still has to match for a Donovan Mitchell or a Bradley Beal.
Wouldn't you have
Robinson
to trade a guy, that was, you knew was going to retire or something? I mean, I didn't see anything going in return. If you can check that trade out for me, Lubie, I don't want to be talking
I'm
through
sure
my,
what they got back sucked, so that's why.
Here.
I'm sure they got back sucked, so that's why. Because we all know from the Knicks' perspective, it's about Jalen Brunson, so no one cares what they got back. But to my knowledge, you have to make the money work. Like, it has to be either equal or close.
What if Mark Cuban comes to Jalen Brunson and says, "Listen, you're not going anywhere, kid. You're going to own a piece of the team eventually." Because the Knicks went ahead and hired Jalen Brunson's father as an assistant coach.
Yes.
You think that's an indicator that they're serious about
they went all
move?
in. They've done everything known to man to get Brunson.
How is that not, like, in its own way, a token of tampering? I mean, where's Adam Silver on this?
No, I mean, you
don't see the writing on the wall there, Adam? I mean, do we have to point it out to you? This is just like, the people that are ignoring whatever it is that we're discovering in the Capitol January 6th hearings and saying, you know what, Donnie's still my man. I tell you what. That tax break he gave everybody. I did appreciate the $2,000, Donald Trump there. Remember when he gave everybody like a $2,000 tax break?
Yes. Oh, the tax break. Yes.
No, it wasn't a stimulus package.
Yeah, the tax break thing. Yeah.
Tax break was good. Yeah, that was good. I mean, and my account, a very respectable guy, was a big fan and advocate saying this guy was doing a lot of good for people. But Meshuggah, I don't want to get off on all of that. But yeah, this Brunson, I mean, is that not tampering, right? Where you hired a guy's father as an assistant coach. I guess that in and of itself would not be,
what do you mean?
Overwhelmingly outrageous. But should you not have to answer for that as if it was, some kind of recruiting violation in college if you're an NBA team? And tampering is such a big issue that if Pat Riley even says, you know what, I like LeBron, boom, tampering, 250.
Well, that's the thing it's the pros, so you can do whatever you want. You just can't actually mention it. You understand it goes deeper than that. Leon Rose, their president, is his former agent, and his current agent is Leon Rose's son, who I'm sure is highly involved in the Knicks as well. So it's not even tampering. It's like we know what the deal is. The problem is Mark Cuban is playing hardball, and that's dumb. Like you just said it. Everything's set up for him to go to New York. He wants to go to New York, and the Mavs said at max they're giving him $22 million a year max, which is what the Knicks offer is for him to stay there. Be somewhere he doesn't want to be. Like, if you're going to try and keep him,
will the Knicks ever be
more.
that great again? That's a good question.
Oh, I don't know. Not right now. This move doesn't make
Are they
great.
within, any, reasonable distance of being a championship team? They had the big year a couple of years ago. Their main impetus there, the main catalyst was Julius Randle having a marvelous season. And then he sort of wasn't as good this past year.
Yeah, he regressed back to the mean.
So he regressed. They have R.J. Barrett, who showed signs of life, but I don't know. Are you really overwhelmingly excited about R.J. Barrett being a leader of your team?
No.
Not to say that he couldn't develop into something like that. We've seen guys, I as good as DeMar DeRozan was, I didn't know he was going to ever play as well as he did this year with San Antonio. Right? I mean, DeMar DeRozan was a dynamic player with the Toronto Raptors, and then he ends up with the Spurs.
Well, and then this year with the Bulls. The Bulls this year, the first half, he was the leading
Bulls this year,
MVP.
he was great, yeah.
But then again, even he regressed to the mean. Like that's it. Like the Knicks are an interesting situation. They're putting together a lot of really good, cool players, so they should be, I guess, like an 8 to 10 seed. But they're not better than the Hawks. They're not better than the Raptors. They're not better than the Heat. They're not better than the Celtics. They're not better than the Bucks. They're not better than the Nets. Like, going and putting this money toward a Brunson, at least it's better than getting Irving. Like, he'll play, and he'll play hard, and he'll represent your team well, but he's not a 1 or a 2 on a real winner. He was the second best player for the Mavs, and the Mavs should have got swept by the Warriors. Like, he's like a 3rd to 4th best player on a winning team. And Barrett and
he showed, good signs and instincts. He was definitely
he's a good player.
Offensive impetus. Yeah. But when he came on the floor, he did very, very well. Impressive in that Dallas series. He, in and of himself, not enough to turn a franchise around that, has been sort of, staggering there in, semi-mediocrity and even sub-mediocrity for many, many years.
Yes,
and that's the other thing. I mean, do the Heat need to do something to be championship contenders again, or do they already? I mean, is it a question of just getting Kyle Lowry into better shape to play better basketball. He's now a year older, and I think, as we saw maybe with the Serena match,
Yeah, I mean, that's some point.
that when an athlete gets to that point in their career where they're up there in years by the standard of the game, and then on top of that, they spent some time towards the end of their career when they were still playing at a reasonably high level, not in great condition. Does that take a toll on an athlete that is now approaching what would have to be by sporting standards somewhat of a bit of old age?
Yeah, I mean,
Like for Serena not being in shape for the last couple of years, did that compromise her chances of coming back? You would have to think yes. Would you not, Mike Lubie Lubitz?
yes. And it's the same thing with a Lowry. Like,
And Lowry, playing last year out of shape the whole year and being in and out with hamstring injuries and things like that. And having for Pat Riley to single that out as a thing that needs to change.
Yeah, he was. Yep.
I mean, imagine Riley was probably fuming.
Well, no, because look, the reality is, and you just said it. Like, if he was going, and it's my same thing with Serena, and it's why even though I have some hope for Lowry, it's why it's very minimal. Like, if he or she was going to be in shape, wouldn't they have done it now? Like, if Serena was going to be in shape, wouldn't this have been her moment? If Lowry was going to be in shape, prove I still have something left,
Playing with the Heat.
wouldn't this have been the year? Like, if he's in shape, they may have won a title. The reason I didn't think they would have beaten the Warriors was because it was Jimmy Butler and a bunch of by the end of it. Like, if Lowry's not if Lowry's the guy we saw in Toronto be the best player, at the end of the series, it wasn't Leonard a lot of the time. At the end of that series versus the Warriors, and yes, they didn't have Durant or Thompson, but Lowry's the one that was like carrying them across the finish line to win that title. And that's why Lowry got it, because up until that point, he was like guy that messed around in the playoffs. That playoff run was when Lowry was like, come on, goddammit, come on. So, like, if he could have done it, wouldn't it been this year? So that's my...
You would have thought this was a big opportunity for him, especially since, everybody was saying, well, geez, Kyle Lowry, he's up there in years.
Yep.
What does he have left in the tank? You thought he might be a much more steadying influence on the Miami Heat. I don't know that people anticipated coming out of year number 2 that Tyler Hero would be the sixth man of the year and play a dynamic role in a regular season, but then only to have him somewhat, and now... maybe injuries were part of the reason for it. I'm sure you could say that he was compromised. He was in and out of the lineup towards the end, but did not have anywhere close to the postseason that he had indicated he would when he played so well during the regular season. Looked like he was going to be a major force. And Jimmy Butler is not a player that's going to carry a team by himself to a championship. So some real question marks there. Whether the Heat need to make a move. Now here's another wild move that is hard to judge because we don't know what this guy's got left. John Wall going to the Clippers. Lubie, what did you think about that? John Wall.
Well, the funny thing is he wanted to come here, and by all accounts, the Heat didn't want him, which is interesting to me. I wouldn't have wanted him for 40-something million a year, but if he can work out a favorable contract... I mean, I get he hasn't played, is it 3 years? Like, I don't know the last time he played regularly, 4 years. So you don't know what he is health-wise and what his motivation is. But if anything is going to get a guy motivated, it's being thrown to the garbage can. So I wanted him, but I guess they really liked the Lowry Vincent thing. And by all accounts, that's why he's in L.A., is he would have liked to be with the Heat. The Heat didn't want him. I don't know. I think the Clippers are going to be interesting.
So now he's got Paul George and supposedly Kawhi Leonard.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's an interesting, it would be a big three, except for the fact that, the Clippers are the redheaded stepchild of the Lakers and generate zero news no matter what they're doing. Paul George showed some real flashes of brilliance at times last year. Kawhi Leonard, we know, can be brilliant, and John Wall is also very capable. I mean, you would think if he was playing kind of a secondary role to those two guys, even if he's been compromised by being out of basketball more than he's been in the last couple of years, that he could find a way to employ his skills in a very favorable fashion in that arrangement. No, I mean, would that not make them better contenders? The fact they got John Wall, if he can do anything close to what we were accustomed to seeing from him when he was playing so many years in Washington. All right, no truth to the Kyrie Irving thing, then, huh? Are you a believer in that now? Well, Mike Lubie, it's no truth. It was never happening. Pat Riley would never stand for it.
Yeah, no, it made no sense. That's not a Heat move. That's not a Heat move. There's no reason for it.
Pat Riley is more likely to jump off the upper deck of one of Mickey's cruise ships straight into the Atlantic, head first, to Willuganus, off the top deck of the Ecstasy. Or be taking ecstasy before he was going to sign Kyrie Irving to a contract and pay him like $50 million a year. Unbelievable.
As always, big thank you to you all for finding us here. The Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Dave Hyde, thank you for joining us. Earlier in the conversation, talked all things Miami Heat. Guys they're going to lose. Guys they could target. Kyrie Irving was never a target. KD was, but feels like that's been settled. PJ Tucker is a loss, but not as huge a loss as fans would make you think he was. Yes, the Heat do need length. Yes, the Heat do need shooting. And those are things that feels like the Heat are targeting right now. Free agency opens up Thursday, so we will see what the Heat do. Will they lose PJ Tucker? Can they maneuver a way to keep him? If they lose PJ Tucker, some of these names that we're hearing out there, TJ Warren, bringing back of Jay Crowder. What happens with the Heat? Who knows? But Pat Riley, will be active. Spoelstra, Ellisberg, Nick Harrison, they don't mess around. We try not to mess around each and every morning. Check us out. Tomorrow is a Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. The South Florida. Just look up South Florida Live on Google. South Florida Live on YouTube. The Defo Show with Lubie on Google. The Defo Show with Lubie on YouTube. Check us out each and every morning, 7 to 9 live. Also, we have our exclusive content podcast on the Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. And each and every day, our South Florida content right here. The Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.